guys really, really hard, and they execute the system, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Trust.
He's pretty
Big trust, baby.
Hey, yes, sir.
Right on cue. Hey, right on cue. Hey, let me.
We're back on the Jumbo Set podcast, presented, as always, by Jimmy's Famous Seafood. My name is Jake Louque, and I'm joined by Gentle Spen Crenshaw, looking pretty dapper there. Got the hair looking good. Made a little comment on that before he got going. I can tell he's feeling himself. How are we doing tonight, sir?
Pretty anxious day today. Drank too strong a coffee. Popped in. The spearmint zins crushed me. I don't know. The menthol ones seemed to not crush me as much. So
you went right to 6, though, didn't you?
I mean, I've chewed them before. I just have only bought myself a couple tins. Now I'm just trying to pop those in and keep rolling. But yeah, I'm always going to be a 6 guy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, those will, if you haven't built up a tolerance, those can get you riled up a little bit.
I was riled up, calmed down here in the evening, had a nice dinner. So feeling okay. How you feeling, my friend?
I am feeling all right myself. A little bit of a stressful work day as well, but just been winding down, reading a book, listening to some Baltimore Orioles on the radio there. Up 2-0 on the Yankees right now, which is nice. AL East pretty much out of reach at this point, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. So just trying to keep an eye on that too. And yeah, Ravens got a big one coming up this week.
They do. So the Bills obviously look great. Josh Allen been a fantastic. Bills have a run game. They have no ego about their offense. They get rid of Diggs. Feels like they're cooking with some gas there. So strong opponent, strong game, exciting game. After a stressful game, which we're going to talk about a little bit of both, I am going to do an appearance on the Cover One Network with my guy Anthony. If you want to check that out, he'll have a little deeper dive into the Bills and things like that. And I don't know, when we get interviewed, we have it's different when people are asking you questions from like an outside perspective. We get so into the granular little individual pieces of salt on this and through everything we do. So when people ask more general questions and you kind of want to survey to a different fan base or whatever, it's always fun and interesting to maybe.
It's nice. You can kind of just kick your feet up a little bit. I enjoy it.
Very much so. So definitely check that out. I think that'll probably drop tomorrow. But yeah, I broke down the tape of this game going through, and man, some fun comments going on about the safety and Lamar Jackson getting in on that one, Kyle Van Noy getting in on that one, and John Harbaugh's press availability. I don't know, man. I just watched the tape. I just finished the Ravens defense. I didn't watch everything in the second half of the Ravens offense, but what John said is exactly how it happened. Everything he said is exactly what went wrong, exactly what happened. And that's what gives you some faith that they'll be able to use these adverse circumstances that they found themselves in the fourth quarter, 3 consecutive weeks to their advantage, so that they hopefully don't blow those games, blow those situations, or at least have the confidence to make plays later in the year.
Yeah, you'd hope so. And I think we were both obviously pretty down in the dumps after that Raiders loss. I mean, that one was a psyche shattering one in many ways. And at this point, I've come back from that a little bit. You can't really fully expunge, the demons of a game like that for a while. I don't think. I think it does help that the Bengals take a big fat L to the Commies at home. They now have lost 2 games at home, which is they're going to be kicking themselves for that. And you just got to hope that if the Ravens can put things together a little bit here, they won't be kicking themselves for a stupid loss like the one they took to the Raiders. And there's not going to be too many more of those on the schedule, because it's a tough schedule, like we keep talking about. Division race is setting up interestingly with the Steelers now at 3-0 and kind of a soft schedule in their own right that kind of tightens up towards the end of the year. But overall, just an interesting time in the AFC North for sure.
Very much so. The Commanders, like you said, put a whipping on the Bengals a little bit. Jaden Daniels making some plays on them. 0-3. They just haven't changed. Nothing's changed about what they do. The Jaguars, the same way. We saw 2 teams that have had success with their younger quarterback. They paid a lot of money. And it just feels like nothing's changed. They still have Lou Anarumo. They still have, it's Trey Hendrickson, and they let Jesse Bates go.
Sam Hubbard.
It's the same defense year after year. They had one great year. They let Jesse Bates, who probably feels very important to what they were doing, go. Haven't been quite able to recover there. Offensively, it's the same shit run game with Joe Mixon. It's inefficient. He'll score a touchdown. He'll make a play here and there. Zach Moss has good fantasy stats and stuff. Joe Mixon would have good fantasy stats at times, but it just feels like they lack anything that catches you by surprise. They scored, and I think Joe Burrow played great. Joe Burrow played great.
Really well. Yeah, he did.
Threw a couple deep balls to Jamar Chase, touchdown. What's new? Like, it's just, I hate Zach Taylor. I think I've said this for years. The worst thing that happened was that Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and that defense they assembled was so good. It's the classic buying into a coach as a result of the team instead of, what are you going to do? Let him go after he goes to the Super Bowl for the first time? Absolutely not. It reminds me of Doug Peterson. What's happened in Jacksonville? Everything's too tough on Trevor Lawrence. It's never easy for Trevor Lawrence. It's always 2006 Peyton Manning, West Coast, reading the defense, going through a progression. But then when you get hit a lot, you don't have time to do that shit. The run game's not steady there either. So those teams, both 0-3, remind me of each other. We saw it on Monday Night Football, and I'm fired up. I think Doug Peterson and Zach Taylor are doing a shit job, both of them. I've been on both their asses for a year, and I'm not impressed with what I've seen.
Yeah, it just feels like, it feels like they're kind of coasting on glory a little bit. And you think that's just kind of a general fan narrative thing where it's like, oh, the Bengals, they got that one big win over Kansas City. Some of these more general shows that I listen to are talking about that. Like, are we sure the Bengals are that great, or are they just kind of coasting off that? And I think in a general sense, that's probably true as fans and as the narrative would dictate. But it also, when you take a look at it, it kind of feels like the Bengals are coasting on that a little bit in that they, like you said, let Bates walk. And obviously, like, they make a signing for Geno Stone and they draft Hill and everything. And like,
they've shuffled the line around. They bring in Orlando Brown. They draft a first-round lineman this year, Ted Karras, whatever. The line is not, that was the issue. It feels like they did take care of that, but they just haven't grown. It just feels like the same iteration of the same team over and over again. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it feels a little stagnant, I think, in both cases.
Certainly. And hey, when you got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it was first game back, same deal. To do our kind of overreaction, underreactions. I mean, I think it was a gross overreaction to like, oh, the Ravens season's over if they're 0-3. Like, I feel the same way about the Bengals still. When you have a good quarterback and you can score points and your defense has a history of being able to align correctly and get things into the sun, you can win 5 straight games. You can win.
And we've seen them do this, not to this extent, but they're always bad in September is kind of the refrain. And I think it's true to an extent.
It is, but it's tough. Higgins has been out. Jamar Chase misses a lot of camp, so that's not going to bode well. Brandon Ayuk, hasn't looked like a stud either. Fantasy football, I always avoid guys who hold out throughout camp. Especially basically all the way through. I don't think it turns out well. Missing camp is a big deal. So I don't know. Those two teams, I think, and then we see the Commanders with parallel a lot of Lamar Jackson chatter of Jaden Daniels. I said the same thing as a prospect. I said I like Jaden Daniels, and he does remind you of Lamar. He reminds you of Lamar because his frame and the fact that he's actually fucking fast. He's actually really fast, and doesn't quite have the wiggle of Lamar, but he's fast.
He sent that one guy to the shadow realm there on the
had a couple. Had the little spin, had the little juke.
Yeah, the one he put his right foot in the ground on that one guy and just sent him careening. That was shades of Lamar against Nick Vigil. That was
what I noticed about that game. Cliff Kingsbury finally was moving Terry McLaurin right side, left side, bringing him in motion, and lo and behold, Terry McLaurin has a great game. God,
it was making me think of you too when they kept showing Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline and they were showering praise on him, but like they couldn't get set in that whole second half on offense. Like they were shuffling guys in and out. That
it was a mess. I don't know how a rookie quarterback can survive and do what he did with that disarray happening in the huddle and before the
fucking huddle. 10 men on the field on that touchdown, the game-winning touchdown to McLaurin. It's crazy.
So do not give I'm not giving Cliff Kingsbury flowers. No. Jaden Daniels won in spite of him. No, absolutely not. But I will give him, hey, you moved Terry McLaurin around. Look what happened. Maybe you should fucking do that more. Stop just sitting him on island. Look at how Justin Jefferson, look at how CeeDee Lamb was using this game. They're bringing him inside, outside, trips, left, right. Like, can't just let your best players go sit alone on an island, tell the defense where he is every play. In college, I get that. Because the talent gap can be so wide and the ability to recover can be so wide. So I get it. I still agree with Cam Taylor-Britt's comments. It is a college offense. Jaden Daniels ripped a couple. I'm sure there's been shots he could have taken over the first couple of weeks too. They just didn't. So Terry, it seemed post-game I was listening to Terry McLaurin. It sounded like he was basically kind of laying in the Terry McLaurin way where he's not being a diva, but he's like, give me the ball. Let's do this. Let's go run this. I know how to play and win and do things.
He's kind of AJ Brown in that way a little bit. Like they both seem very stoic, but also like they'll tell you what's on their mind. Which is
good. They're a wide receiver at the end of the day, no matter how maybe anti-diva they might be. AJ Brown kind of a weirdo in a non-wide receiver way. He's kind of a
He's
kind of
like
a linebacker.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like an offensive lineman a little bit.
Yeah. He's a big boy. He's a strong boy. So yeah, Monday Night Football, all those things. I'm excited. People are saying, "Oh, Commanders, Ravens." Commanders, Ravens tickets are very expensive, by the way. Very expensive. I think it was $180 to get in, cheapest one. So those are always fun. I think commies always get excited to come up here to the nicer stadium.
Yeah, they're hot in the pants now too. They seeing a lot of chatter about how he's the new kid on the block. He's better than Lamar Jackson already. Interesting stuff. So I guess that'll be settled in a couple weeks.
The best quarterback in the DMV.
The DMV, famously, yes, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. That's what it means. That's what encompasses it. Richmond, Virginia, a part of the DMV.
The best. He's 1 out of 1. So
Fulton, Maryland, in the DMV.
Yeah, that certainly includes areas like Bethesda, Rockville.
It's a metro area and it's suburbs, people. Let's clean it up.
I liked what you said. We call it the MVA up here.
Yeah, it's the MVA up here. You Virginia people on in the DC.
Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the DMV. He's the second best quarterback in the MVA if Lamar Jackson's also in there. But
yeah, in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So fun stuff there. Delmarva, baby. And yeah, I guess we can kind of get into it. What I saw, a lot of talk about, the blown lead, all those kinds of things. I get it. And I picked up on one little tweet that was like, oh man, I wish the Ravens could do what the Bills do and just blow teams out, keep the foot on the pedal, keep it going. The Bills in the second half of that game, Josh Allen threw 2 passes. They kicked a field goal, punted, kicked a field goal. The Jaguars turned the ball over on downs on the 18-yard line, and the Bills ran 4 run plays with their backups and scored a touchdown. Field goal, punt, field goal, short field touchdown with Mitch Trubisky in. The Ravens.
The Jaguars were completely flaccid in what I saw from that game. And I turned it off relatively quick because I was going to go to the other game. I was like, I know what's going to happen here. This is not worth watching. This is just, like you said, it's Doug Peterson. Just find a guy and throw it there. Not a whole lot exciting going on. And the Cowboys kind of were not really that. Like, they were down in the red zone. Wiggins forces the fumble. You recover that. Like, they were moving the ball a little bit. So the tenor of those 2 games were not quite the same.
The fumble is a great point there, that the Cowboys did get down there, turn the ball over. It wasn't like Dak threw some stupid pick or something either. It was just, Wiggins made a play there a little bit. And I'll say, really, a big part of why, I guess we can pull up the tape here, a big part of why
Before we jump into the tape, we actually have a little ad read from our friends at Black Eyed Susan Spices, who are fresh off their Sauce Red Flags appearance on season 24 of Hot Ones, where they burn the mouths of the likes of Will Smith, Lewis Hamilton, Shane Gillis, Ryan Reynolds, Ariana Grande, and even got to burn Pittsburgh Steeler Cam Hayward's face off. Ever heard of those people? They are proud to announce 2 new sauces for this fall: McClintock's Revenge, a medium-level sauce that blends sweet dark cherries, oranges, and rosemary with vinegar that was aged in a McClintock's distilling rye whiskey barrel. On the very, very hot end of this spectrum is Edward Peach. This sauce does not mess around. Peach is fermented peach, Carolina Reaper peppers. Fermented peach, ghost peppers, apricots, and lots of ginger will set your mouth on fire and make your beard smoke. I like that. Those 2 sauces are only available at blackeyedespices.com, where you can use the code EXIT52 for 10% off your order. That is code EXIT52, all caps, at blackeyedespices.com for 10% off your order. Go get that hot sauce. It's hot sauce season.
I love it. I love it so much. I eat all the time. Great ad read. Great job, Jake. I love their hot sauce. I love it.
Great writing by our guy Seb there.
He's the boy. So, yeah, we can get into it with that, sponsored by Will Smith getting his face burned off and Cam Hayward getting his face burned off. So really got into the second half here. We'll see some captions come up, supplementary here. A lot of it was leverage, and that's a lot of what John Harbaugh talked about, leverage issues. So this is 3rd down, and Nate Wiggins ends up getting one of his couple penalties here, holding. And we're going to see this bunch from the Cowboys. Wiggins here is outside. You see Marlon Humphrey is the point man. They played him in the nickel a ton this game. I think that was a matchup dependent thing. Maybe you play Hamilton and Jackson a little more against the Bills. We'll talk about that. But Wiggins is outside. Yeah, bottom of the screen. Williams is inside. Marlon is the point man. So he's running with whoever runs up on him. He's going to take away, whoever's the flat underneath option. And we watch Wiggins. He's outside. He lets himself drift inside. Ferguson gets back across his face. He has to try to grab at him. Was very grabby in this game. Right at the top, he lets him break outside and has to grab there. So ends up getting a hold of it. Ends up giving a free first down to the Cowboys here. He grabbed his face mask. It was a penalty. So again, just outside, Ferguson breaks across his face. He's turned inside and grabs instead of trying to open his hips and run or something like that. He had help inside. He didn't need to worry about inside. If Ferguson sits down, that's fine. So next one here, Raymond, pass rush early in the third quarter here was good. They were able to get some pressure. Kyle Van Noy, I said it was a welcome to the NFL moment. We see some cloud coverage here, meaning that it is 2 safeties playing cover 3. We see Stevens is going to stay underneath on the other side there. And this cloud coverage, this is out of a split look. So you think you're getting cover 2, cover 4, 2-man. And the Cowboys want to try to work the ball probably to the smash route to CeeDee Lamb, which probably would have been a good open throw against this coverage ultimately. But Kyle Van Noy hits the spin cycle there. So nice little disguise. It's going to end up being cloud. And by the time Dak can even consider, it would have been a tough throw still. You can probably throw one up for CD, see what he can do. Might be a little tricky, but Kyle Van Noy just gives Guyton an absolute welcome to the NFL moment. Hits him with the spin cycle when he oversets. And then Guyton, that should have been a penalty. He's pushed him in the back. The ref might have held it in his pocket because it was a penalty there. Kyle Van Noy has been so good, Jake. So good early on.
Yeah, I made the point on Twitter that I never remember him being this good. I know he was always good on the Patriots, but you didn't really think about him as that type of pass rush presence type guy. And I think we saw it definitely last year, but it feels like he's on a torrid pace like we haven't seen. He just feels like a great kind of fountain of youth guy and being utilized in a way that allows him to maybe do that pass rushing thing a little bit more. Whereas in New England, you're kind of more of a role player. You're doing what Belichick asks you to do. I know he did play a lot of coverage at the time, and that was when they were kind of coming out of that Jamie Collins, doing weird things with linebackers era. So that could be part of it. But man, he has been really, really impressive. And his face is broken.
Broken face man. We had the one-arm man. Now we have the broken face man.
Yeah,
all right. Leverage going to be a common theme here. This is on first down. So the Ravens got off the field there. First down. Williams loses his leverage. So we see Wiggins is on the outside. He is manned up. They motion Jake Ferguson into the slot as the number 2. And Williams it's leverage. He needs to stay inside a little bit. He can go run. So I just put a question mark here. What are we doing here, Marcus Williams? He did have a tough game in ways. I think he's getting a little bit too much shit maybe. Immediately breaks outside. I don't know why. And now look, there's just this big traffic jam here. There's a big separation. Your foot not on your back foot. Ferguson gets a 17-yard gain. He's a tight end, man. It's not like it's, I don't know, likely Pitts, Kittle. He's not a burner. He's a big wide tight end. He's like Pat Fryermuth. He's one of them. So just letting him run away from you there was bad. And that's the common theme. Where can I lose? Here you want to lose to the outside, not to the inside. You want to make the big tight end have to run further, run upfield. He's not going to run away from you. When you let him shorten the distance to the quarterback, it's going to be a shorter throw, and you just see that separation right there. So Williams had a tough game with leverage. So did Wiggins. Both of them on that play there. Wiggins is fine, but just worked as a natural pick ultimately.
Yeah, you'd kind of hope too that this stuff can get ironed out. You're seeing the numbers float around about how they are, very bad as far as the volumetric passing stats go, and you kind of have to just hope that it's Zach Orr cooking these guys up a little bit, getting them in the right position. And obviously there's a youth factor with Wiggins as well. But yeah, it definitely was ugly. And people kind of making the point, oh, well, they went into the prevent defense too early. And I think maybe there's something to that, but prevent defense is a term that just kind of gets overused by fans a little bit. Prevent defense is literally sending 4 safeties back and then having 4 light guys right in front of them basically. And you're literally just trying to prevent a Hail Mary. If you want to make that argument, I guess that's true. But apropos of pretty much nothing, don't use the term prevent defense unless you're talking about giving up a Hail Mary or doing something stupid. I remember the Bears did 10 years ago when they did prevent in this weird Reds. I don't know why this sticks in my mind, but this 2015 Bears game with John Fox, they did my buddy's a Bears fan, my college roommate. So we were watching that game and they just went into full prevent and it was down in their red zone. It was right before the half. The guy catches it at the 1-yard line. They had a second left, and then they called timeout and scored a touchdown. Just one of the funniest things. So prevent defense can be very stupid, but just maybe just talk about playing off a little bit or just kind of getting a little bit.
We're gonna get into exactly what you're talking about here at the end. You're spot on, Jake. So here was a nice disguise. It's Tampa 2. We only see 1 high safety. Does this look like the cover 2? Mel Kiper's cover 2 split safety? No, it does not. It looks like the Ravens might be sending a pressure here. Ardarius Washington ends up coming on some slot pressures, not on this one. This is going to be Tampa 2, though. They disguised it. So we see Marcus Williams at the top of the screen run back. And how do you beat cover 2? It's kind of up the seam there, but And people are like, oh, Roquan Smith is washed. Roquan Smith is washed. I don't know what to tell him here. If I'm a coach, I don't know what to say. He ran with Ferguson. He ends up, I zoom in on it. You see him get right in Ferguson's catch point. It's just a nice kind of back shoulder throw away. I slowed this down and zoomed in on it. I mean, Roquan's hand is right in the breadbasket there. Ferguson went up and big boyed a ball, and it happens. Has Roquan made impact plays so far? Not really in coverage.
Made one in week 1, but it was kind of thrown right to him.
Yeah.
Wasn't really a coverage.
Yeah, anyone's making that play. I mean, it was a nice catch. It was a good catch. So, here. So this is deep into the second half. This is not prevent. Whoops, jumped a little bit back. This is not prevent. Let's see where we can get to. There we go. So Ravens are running cover 0 with a rain check, which is the thing that the Dolphin Brian Flores did to the Ravens on Thursday Night Football in Miami a couple years ago. If the line half slides to the right, whoever is on that side of the line as the defensive tackle drops off. If he slides to the left, the other guy drops off here. So we see cover 0 with the rain check. Michael Pierce ends up being the guy who gets out in space, which is always funny.
Just incredible.
He can really scoot. So cover 0 here. Ravens might be dropping out of it. I don't know. One thing I will say, small comment, is that the Ravens have not done a good job disguising who's coming and going. They are leaning forward if they're blitzing. They are falling back, or they're in these kind of mugged up looks. I don't think they're doing a good job being deceptive at the line of scrimmage on an individual basis. The linebackers, the DBs, I think they need to be a little more calm. They're like chomping at the bit. Okay, then he's coming. And if you chomp at the bit, then bluff and drop off, that's a good job. Get a little more disguise going to the line of scrimmage. So here, cover 0 works. Dak just throws up a shitty ball, 4th down, ends up being an offensive pass interference. I'm sure our Darius Washington wishes he could have notched this interception, but probably better that, you get the field positions better by, it was 4th down. They turned the ball over, so you get better field position. So Pierce takes away those inside options. Good job by our Darius Washington, who had some really good plays in this one, got put in a couple tough situations as well. He does have some limitations simply because of his size and just like not being a big, tall, long guy that can close a window and things like that in zone, but he's really good in man coverage. He's tough. So here we see the line slides to the left, to our left on the screen. So that indicates to Michael Pierce. You see him move forward and then drop back. Those underneath options he could have maybe taken away. And our Darius Washington right there, underthrown ball off of Dak Prescott's back foot. So the Ravens started blitzing a lot. So we just looked at one. We're going to look at another one. The slot blitz here. I don't know what they saw. I guess just the alignment of, I think, Eddie Jackson here. And to the field, the number 2 and number 3 both pointed at him. The Cowboys picked up a lot of the Ravens' pressures. That was a huge issue as well. They were sending some slot blitzes, and it wasn't getting home. So we see they're going to roll coverage around. I made the arrow go the wrong way there. Hamilton kind of gets a little flatter than that, but I digress. So what do? What have I talked about a million times? They leave a big void in the middle of the field for a dig or an in-breaking route. Pressure gets picked up. Big void in the middle of the field. I mean, perfect little box here to throw into. Tavius Robinson is that underneath defender that's dropping off. He's not going to make a play deep in space. Stevens is going to maintain outside leverage because he can't lose outside. So I thought Stevens played great in this game, really. He was the one that was awesome consistently.
Great throw with the sun in your eyes, by the way. Just that blinding Jerry World sun coming right at Dak.
And that's the thing about Dak. He was throwing the ball right at the top of the drop. He knew where the soft spot was, and he was ripping it. And the Ravens keep giving these soft spots. So that's going to be the other theme. They send the pressure. It was Washington, pardon me, not Jackson. But he rips it right into that soft spot. Up-tempo, he looked great. Here we're going to see, all right, they're not going to blitz this time after they just sent a pressure. What I wanted to point out here is that I think people are going to put this maybe on Marcus Williams. I mean, he could drive on this throw. I'll see what I did exactly with the video. Washington, though, has no threat. Again, the middle of the field's wide open. And the threat to our Darius Washington is the back. Look how Dak's already getting the ball out right at the top of his drop. Same thing. Quick, bang. The back there, if he stays in, there's no other threat. I'm going to try and rewind this. So we see the fullback that made a couple plays in this one, Louque. If he stays, that should tell our Darius Washington, like, there's no threat here at all whatsoever. There's no threat. So you should run with this receiver. To me, I don't know if that's the principle that the Ravens have, but to me, if I have no underneath threat, the fullback is staying in. He moves to the other side. He's not my man anymore. I want to move, especially if I'm Washington. I want to get out in space. We see him just kind of read in coverage, go to his zone. Williams doesn't quite drive on this ball, but Dak is throwing it so quickly. Look, he's already getting the ball out. I don't expect Williams to make that play. He took a kind of shitty angle there a little bit. He didn't quite drive on it downhill like we've seen him do in the past. But, man, I mean, that's not prevent defense, just like you said, but it's a big soft spot in the middle of the field. So you're not getting the ball thrown over your head, but you're also not in the freaking red zone, or you're in the red zone, pardon me. So use the fucking back line. Stop letting him throw it over the middle of the field. That just has been the common theme.
And that's sort of like you talk about the bend, don't break thing that I kind of laugh at a little bit. That feels like that's where you should be employing that principle, as opposed to let's funnel them to the middle of the field, let them get the easy completions and kill the clock. Like it's okay to be doing that for most of this drive, I think, where you're trying to, in principle, do that. But when they start to get down here, it's maybe let's flip the switch a little bit and change the philosophy.
Yeah, so they were sending pressures. I mean, and they're sending pressures in between the 20s, which is the bend. Bend means don't send pressure, and bend but don't break means send pressure, get off the field late. So here comes a 2-point conversion. And man, I mean, the Cowboys did such a good job using CD as a decoy for so much of this game. But then on the 2-point conversion plays, this really is just Ardarius Washington. So you just have to give him credit, I think. CD's just going to run a little flat drive, a little 3-step out here, and he's just going to get out. He puts hands on Washington, and Washington does not let himself get bullied. Maintains a good knee drive, maintains a good angle and posture. Let's see if I can get to it. I don't know where I just jumped to. There we go. Maintains a really good posture so that he can still work downhill. He recognizes that CD is going to get physical. He kind of sees the break, and he makes sure that he resets his feet. He breaks the contact, and then his first stride, he's at that 45-degree angle again, breaking back so that he can advance on CD, get into the catch point, and makes a play through the breadbasket there. So that was fucking awesome by Ardarius Washington.
Click and close, one of my favorite alliterative plays.
And it was tough. He got arm bar right into the chest, got pushed off on, and then just still closed. That's a tough play to make. It takes confidence and technique. Here, huge play. I think this is one of the plays that lost him the game. Nate Wiggins had the awesome and also made one of the plays that won them the game, right? We talked about setting the tone early, has the punch out. Rookie learning. Harbaugh talked about this exact thing, I think, in the press conference this week. Leverage. He had some leverage issues. The Ravens had leverage issues. Here's the thing. Ravens are kind of going to run some exotic little look. I don't even know if I looked at it in that much detail. They're going to drop like their outside linebackers off or something. We're going to see, I put shaking my head here. Wiggins loses inside leverage. We're going to see Wiggins line up. He's going to even reset inside again before the snap. You have to make the receiver lose outside. You don't have any help inside. So what does the receiver do? Sees that he gets into neutral. Wiggins kind of whiffs with his, he pushes with two hands there, gets flat-footed. Receiver just runs a slant right by him. Bad technique, and also doesn't know where he can't lose. You can't lose inside, so why are you going to lunge with both hands? Bop, and he's letting himself work outside. It's like he knew pre-snap, I need to line back up. I need to make sure to reset inside, and then just lets the receiver get there anyway. When you put both your hands up like that, he's also, I mean...
Is he just reading a flag route like too early there and just overreacting?
I don't know what the fuck he's doing, honestly. I don't know. That was bad technique, in my opinion, because when you can't lose inside, you can't lunge with two hands because then your hip is going to lock. Like, try to push your hands out and turn your hips at the same time with both hands, and then try to do it with one hand. It's like golf kind of, right? When you swing down, it pushes your front knee, your lead knee back, right? When you're driving. So it enables you to open your hip. He's also not freaking Richard Sherman. He's 180 pounds. So why are you trying to shove with two hands?
And strategically, it's similar too, because like the cliche with golf is like, it's not about making birdies. It's about eliminating bogeys. Like you gotta know your misses. You got to know what not to do just as much, or if not more so in some cases, what you should be doing. And that's just kind of one of those things where it's like, if I get beat to the outside, whatever, I've got help. But if he goes inside, this is probably going to be a first down, and it's those little paper cuts that can kill you. So,
and two things about him also is that his recovery speed is so outstanding that it's okay to lose outside because you're just going to run him down the sideline. The sideline's your friend when you've got that kind of speed and you're maybe not the physically strongest guy in the world. The other aspect, he wasn't in a car accident. He did miss some practice. So
yeah, can't forget that.
Yeah, so we'll give him grace, absolutely. Like Harbaugh said, good learning tape, but I thought he had a couple big plays that he let up that were really killer in the second half. This is one of them that gets the Cowboys all the way down to, I believe, like the 13-yard line there. Next one, Roquan Smith gets furious at Marcus Williams. Cole was messaging us right before this. He thinks it's a great play design. I mean, I agree, but look at where the void of the field is. Look at what they're doing in the red zone. Harbaugh said the easiest place to throw the ball. This week he said the easiest place to throw the ball is over the middle of the field, right? So big void. They don't have these big physical dudes outside of CD. Again, they line CD up as actually, he might not even be in on this play. Now that I think about it, unless that's him at the top of the screen. But again, it's just working to the middle of the field. Marcus Williams, there's 3 defenders to the outside. Marcus Williams lets himself get dragged with Marlon Humphrey. Roquan Smith kind of has underneath there, and that's as easy as a touchdown as you can have. You lined up in a split safety look and then stayed in it post-snap. Dak does a nice job stepping up into the pocket, but where's the deception there? I don't know what Marcus Williams is doing. It was a bad rep. Very, very, very bad. Very easy touchdown there. Now, again, second 2-point conversion. The first one, CD kind of pushed off of Ardarius Washington. I'm not going to say they got lucky, but if you told me that you're going to match CD up with one-on-one with Ardarius Washington, he's going to get into his chest, I'm going to say that CD probably wins 80% of those reps, right? He's a strong, physical, bigger dude. Ardarius Washington, not the biggest guy. So huge heart on Ardarius Washington there. Cowboys again, CD, we talked about, Jake. He's throwing fucking temper tantrums with his $3 million chains on all day. So what do the Cowboys try to do? Work him the ball so he can get his glory in the end zone, the big 2-point conversion, which is a huge play here. And the Ravens triple team him. I mean, they have someone inside. They have someone outside. I'll rewind this one back a little bit. We can see, all right, they've got a safety outside. Roquan Smith is pinning him inside. And then Kyle Hamilton is cognizant of where he's coming. They pass off, took him away. Dak has to try to make some, hero ball play. Kind of almost does. He's just a mess trying to juke and shuck and jive defenders out. So those 2 stops really won the game for the Ravens in my mind defensively. Those 2-point conversions, 4 points there, makes a big difference, makes it,
it's
much more
winning difference right there. It's a 3-point game. I mean,
yeah, it is. And it also just changes the tone of the Cowboys are not as urgent. If they get both of those, it's suddenly a touchdown. It's not just as urgent for them. They can relax a little, which maybe it was a good thing they had to keep going. Here, just bad tackling. I mean, void in the middle of the field, sure, same shit. Soft defense here. But Kyle Hamilton just whiffs on the damn fullback. The fullback was a 5-star on this day. Then whoever that is, Humphrey maybe, whiffs and falls down. Dude rumbles for 25 yards. Just bad fucking tackling. So it's like, what's Zach Orr's problem? I don't love the red zone stuff of just sitting back in those 2 high shells, but, it's bad fucking tackling there. It's bad technique from a rookie who was in a car accident, and maybe you can get into should he be playing so much immediately after that? Sure, but he also took his lumps, and you hope he grows for it. I said to you and Cole, hopefully Wiggins is one of the guys that you tell something once and he doesn't fuck up again. People always.
Jimmy Smith got off to a rough start in his career in the same way, but you could tell he had all the tools. He had made a couple plays, and then obviously makes the play in the Super Bowl, and he kind of turned it into a great career after that. So,
yeah, certainly. So, I mean, Hamilton here, I just think he just thinks this big fullback's just not going to move like that. Comes back inside and just.
Speaking of Hamilton, bad rep there for him, but. Man, you got to check out this video by our guy Baldy on Twitter, just showing you the ways that he gets utilized. And obviously maybe not the best game for Zach Orr, but just a really fun watch, showing you all the different ways he lines up and how they disguise him originally, and then they bring him up or back. It's interesting stuff.
Certainly. Next thing, a couple plays later, screen, middle of the field's wide open. Good play call. They got a screen going. Roquan Smith put in a tough spot there. One-on-one with the lineman. You hope he can win that sometimes, but just he runs out, forces it back inside, and there's just no help. So they go get another big gain. I think this was maybe another 17 yards. Suddenly that's like 35 yards in 2 plays. And the rush just wasn't getting home. I mean, they blitzed. So we talked about, all right, maybe stop playing cover 2 in the red zone when it's like it's not the high red zone. This is like the mid-low red zone where you're like towards the 15 or the 20. There's still room. So they get out of that. And Dak just throws a fucking beautiful ball, man. I don't know. Ardarius Washington's lined up with Turpin. Turpin is so much faster than him, so much of a different mover at a similar size. He's way more of a long striding, explosive, jittery guy. Washington kind of a smooth mover. Works inside, works back outside. Dak throws like a crazy back shoulder ball. Turpin happens to see it. I think Washington even recovered nicely. So I'm not mad at him there. The rush just doesn't get home. And
they're probably just tired as shit too. Like that's the thing about playing with a lead like this. Everyone, it's easy to say in theory, like, let's just go get after them. Let's do this. Let's, play better in coverage. They're probably just gassed, man. They're playing basketball in grass on that, turf that you were talking about inside of a dome against a track meet team with a quarterback who gets the ball out quickly. Like it's tough to maintain that for 4 quarters. I don't say that in the means of an excuse, but maybe just a bit of an explanation as to where the pass rush went and some of these, miscues that they had late going.
Certainly. So what was the theme? Leverage was an issue. If I need to force outside leverage, I have to stay inside. Where's my help? And those are things that you just work throughout the week. You look at it on film. You have to stay within your technique. Know what technique you can't use. You got to kind of have your fastball and maybe your curveball, especially if you're a young corner like that. Williams had a bad game, I will say. It didn't feel like he was, like you said earlier, clicking and closing. He wasn't driving. He had leverage issues. He didn't tackle particularly well, so not a great game for the one-armed man. Rush wasn't getting home. The Cowboys picked up on a couple slot pressures. Dak had really clean pockets, and you just made a great point, Jake. What slows down the rush? Having to rush 17 consecutive times because the Cowboys recovered an onside kick.
I also wonder what they feel about their state of their pass rush right now. It's been, you've had the one nice play from Ojabo, but he's been relatively quiet. Owe obviously has been awesome. Matabike too. But, they signed Yannick Ngakoue. That was made official today. It kind of makes me wonder if they're going to try to, I think that'll put them at, probably likely rostering 5, having 7 total as far as pass rushers go. I just wonder if they're kind of hoping for a little bit more juice in that department. Van Noy obviously been awesome as well, but maybe looking for a little more depth there.
Yeah, I think that what do we know about Eric DaCosta? He loves to do his bargain bin shopping at the trade deadline on the defensive side of the football. If you've got somebody on an expiring contract and you're a losing team, send him to the Ravens to go rush the passer, which is how Yannick Ngakoue got here the first time. And now he's back. So Ngakoue, we haven't talked about. I mean, yeah, he broke his ankle last year, but he played a lot of snaps. He had a couple sacks. Maybe doesn't quite have the same juice he used to have, but he knows how to win around that arc. We did a lot of content on him a couple years ago. He knows how to speed rush. He can get up into your pads a little bit and bull rush you. He feels like a couple clips I watched, it feels like he's a little heavier now. And it feels like he has a little more bull rush than he did previously. Or maybe he just wants to more because maybe he is one step slower. So, yeah, I mean, rotational rusher, see if he can work in there. You're an injury away from being really thin, right? So I think the Ravens are going to keep looking at that market.
Yeah, definitely. So intriguing stuff. You mentioned kind of the bargain bin aspect of it. It's probably is going to be that minimum. And interesting kind of story there with the Ravens where they trade for him and you're kind of expecting him to be that sack master that they were looking for. It was just kind of a weird fit in that wink defense. He didn't probably love the way that he was utilized, I think we had heard. And I don't know, seems like all that is kind of in the past and hopefully he can bring some juice for them.
Anthony Santander just ripped a home run. Surprise.
Hit the foul pole in Yankee Stadium.
Surprise. Yeah, so this game, I think, again, it's encouraging. People are going to hate me for saying this. It's encouraging to go through these little technical details defensively now and go back and look and say, okay, maybe we need to bend but don't break, to your point, Jake. Maybe we can play this kind of letting the middle of the field open from between the 20s. Then we need to play man, or then we need to play cover 3 and trust our corners a little bit more on the outside. So Zach Orr, I'm pleased with everything. He mixed it up pretty well. That's the one qualm I'd say, maybe too much void cover 2. I think the Ravens need to start maybe like what quick answer, which we always end up talking about this about the Ravens. Usually it was their offense having to face this coverage, but invert the cover 2. Have the corners play the deep halves. Mike McDonald, it's getting around and around. All right, you want to play cover 2? Let's play it 8 different ways then. Just keep the carousel going so that the pre-snap look and the post-snap look are different. Now, I feel like, I've paid money to watch Mike McDonald do coaching clinics. That's what he talks about. Just same concept, different players doing different jobs. Then it's unpredictable. Then the quarterback has to think, and then the pressure gets home. So, invert the cover 2, rotate. They did a couple times. They did do a little bit of it, but I think it's just going to take more time, another 3 to 5 weeks to get deep into the bag of disguising the pre-snap and post-snap look. And Roquan Smith's a big topic. He's played fine. He's played okay. He hasn't been crazy impactful yet, but I'm not concerned about him in any way, shape, or form. He's still diagnosing well. Cowboys threw 55 passes. And again, leaving the middle of the field open is going to put a lot of stress on him. So
yeah, bum shoulder. It's a new defense. Some young players being added in, you lose Clowney. There's been a little bit of flux here. I know I
think Trent Simpson was great in this game too.
He was. We mentioned that on the live show. Actually, that was a little bit of a footnote when I think we should have talked about him earlier. I think he was fantastic. So
Yeah, I want to see him getting some more of those coverage situations a little bit down the road. Once he's a little less green, where you can ask him to be kind of roaming that. He's a little taller, a little longer, a little quicker. He's younger, and I mean, crazy testing athlete. So I want to see him maybe carry the seam a couple times. That's the rotation. Him carrying the seam, not Roquan. You know, they're having him kind of check to the flat, carry the back, things like that. Let's start to switch the responsibility up in the next couple of weeks between Simpson and Roquan Smith a few games from now. So, man, and the Bills, I guess we can talk about a little bit coming into town. Watching their offense last night, it's just a lot of motion. They run the football. They get somebody tweeted and said, it looks like the Bills built an entire roster out of slot receivers offensively. Khalil Shakir, Kincaid, Knox. They get James Cook involved in that way. Keon Coleman's not exactly this like burner. And they do have MVS. They play a little bit. Mac Hollins is kind of a slot receiver. Whoever the hell else they got there. So it's all timing, motion, making defenders pass off coverage. And the thing to me that just is killer, and Lamar has been just as good this year, actually, is sack avoidance. When you get pressure on Josh Allen, you just can't fucking get a sack ever, because he's so strong and he can hose the ball out of play from anywhere. It just devastates you. They just rarely have negative plays. He obviously hasn't turned the football over yet. Quarterbacks will have games where they have turnovers. We'll see Josh Allen go full Josh Allen. I'm sure he's heard all the shit all offseason and wants to be super turnover averse as well. But they play with so much rhythm. They can run the ball better. The backs they use so well out of the backfield. Ty Johnson they use well out of the backfield. Ray Davis a little bit. James Cook obviously so good as a receiver. So this is going to be more of a test of your underneath defense and coverage. We haven't seen, the Bills aren't hitting deep shots, but they're getting these chunk plays, 15, 12, 8, 11, incompletion, 5-yard run, 11-yard run, 13 yards, touchdown. So, their offense is clicking. They're in really good rhythm, it looked like. It looks like that's a big thing we talked about the Ravens offense, coming off the ball together, being in rhythm, ready to go. Like they're running routes with intention, being confident where you sit down. Our guy Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator there, retained. They're really clicking on all cylinders. So this defense, it ends up being a good game of shit they need to sort out with leverage and technique, headed into a game that's going to stress that even more, and with an offense that's better and going to score some points. So I'm excited to see that matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. And man, you mentioned Allen with the sack avoidance, like watching him dance around the perimeters of the tackle box. It's just incredible. I mean, the guy is like, I don't know. I don't want to, do too many tricks on it, but I mean, he's just freaking incredible. He's one of one, I think, in a lot of ways. Like Mahomes, we talk about him being hard to sack, but Allen is hard to sack in a different way. I think he's more explosive, running the ball, and it's really
he's bigger. He's just way stronger and bigger.
He's faster and quicker too. Like he's got great balance. Like you mentioned the negative plays. Like you would think that the way that he fucking dances around like a ballerina sometimes, he just trip over his own feet, but no, he doesn't. I mean, he's just like. He's a true unicorn. He's impossible to bring down, and he's a
supersized athlete quarterback.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for this group of linebackers to hang with him, I think. So I'm excited to see that matchup.
Yeah, who's going to bring him down? Who's going to end plays on him? I mean, he's as big as Owe is. He's quicker. He's a little faster than Matabike. Van Noy, I think Van Noy's grown man enough. If he can get a hand on him, he's quicker than Van Noy. Roquan, he's fucking way bigger than Roquan. Trenton Simpson.
Spy him with Trenton Simpson was just what
Trenton
I was
Simpson and Kyle Hamilton got to be down in there.
Yeah,
I brought it up. We saw so much Nate Wiggins in this game. I don't think you need Nate Wiggins that much in this game. I think we see maybe Marlon play on the outside a little bit more, who's a little more consistent in his technique. Get Eddie Jackson back there on the back end and bring Kyle Hamilton down into the box. And Kyle Hamilton is supposed to be that eraser, right? He's supposed to be that same kind of supersized athlete with Josh Allen. Easier said than done, but Josh Allen, he's a uniturner like Derek Zoolander. He loves to run right. He loves to roll right. If he rolls left, he pretty much runs, and you just can't get him to go left. It's like, Mariano Rivera's throwing a cutter. Okay, like it's easier said than done. Way easier to say hit the cutter, or he does this or does that, and then he throws you the cutter, and you're like, oh my God, this is not fucking real to hit. So, man. Excited to see. I think it'll be a great test for the Ravens. Again, overreaction, I think, is if they lose that game, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world at all in this division. Not the end of the world if they end up 1-3. They lead the NFL in penalties. They've had 31 penalties called on them. Opponents have had 15 so far, which is insane. Somebody was DMing me saying that I was trying to fact check it and go through. I know that there have been at least 8 15-plus yard penalties called on the Ravens. Their opponents have 1 15-yard penalty, and it was actually in the red zone. It was Trevon Merrick with an unnecessary roughness against the Raiders, and it was half the distance to the goal. It took them from the 12 to the 6. So opponents have had 0 15-yard penalties. There was the DPI against the Chiefs, but guess what? There was an offsetting penalty. They've had like 4 offsetting penalties against the Ravens when their opponent gets a personal foul. So,
and the chart that's going around detailing all of that does say that a lot of these a lot of them are like judgment calls. Like, it's not just procedural stuff, got to clean this and that up. There definitely is an aspect of that, but like, they're really getting boned here. And like, I don't even know, like, I wouldn't even just point to the incompetence of the refs. It's like, they just have to have that luck swing back their way. I think it eventually will, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, certainly. Hopefully. Again, I was saying at the watch party we were at, I was like, oh, the refs want the Ravens to win because Kyle Hamilton rips his helmet off. They don't call it. There's a couple things.
You jumped the gun on that, my friend, way too quickly.
It was America's Game of the Week, and they needed to rein that one back in for the viewership. They didn't want people, starting to favor TikTok and going to bed ahead of Sunday Night Football, I suppose.
Yeah, it was America's Game of the Week with America's team in it. So, of course there was going to be some home cooking.
It's the Dallas Cowboys getting blown out 2 weeks in a row. Of course I'm throwing a flag.
We're Costco guys. Of course we flag the Ravens, way more than any other team.
We're Costco guys. We hate when the Ravens are starting to win and have to try to even it out a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, and then those are the factors too. Owe with the roughing the passer. They've had Matabike's had 2 roughing the passers. Neither of them are roughing the fucking passer. It's we're just going to complain about that because we're old salty men now, but it is what it is. We'll do the preview on Thursday night and have that out Friday. We're going to do that. We'll do those live. I think we like doing those ones live. Jumbo set, just me and you time, Jakey. We'll do the preview live again.
Sure. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, I'm going to hop for that other one. Like and subscribe. Huge shout out to Clipper City, to Jimmy's, to the Spicy Boys over at Black Eyed Susan Spices. And Jake will get us out of here. I'm going to give a preemptive see ya.
All right. Yep. The man said it best. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. It helps us out a lot. Comment on all the videos. Spread us by word of mouth to any of your friends that are looking for a Baltimore sports podcast or YouTube channel. We have great content, in my humble opinion, and I think that they would like it. So go ahead and do that for us. You can find us on social media at Exit52 Podcast on X and on Instagram. I am at Jake Louque. That's Louque. Spenny is at Ravens4Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle. Brian at Barstool Banks, Eric at EDITTI22, and Taylor at Taylor Smythe 10. Thank you for listening to the Jumbo Set, and we will talk to you guys again very, very soon.
Really, really hard, and they execute the system, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Trust.
He's pretty big trust.
Big trust, baby.
Hey, yes, sir.
Right on cue. Hey, right on cue. Hey, let me.